Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Monetary, coach of the Tampa Bay Luxrays, and today I'm bringing you guys our GBA Week 2 team builder against Old Man Tup, coach of the Pittsburgh Pirattatas. If you have not done so already, please check him out in the description below. He is an absolutely amazing guy, and he is actually one of the biggest reasons that I was invited to the GBA near the beginning of Season 6. He really recommended me, really pushed me to be in the league, and that's what ended up happening. So big thank you to him, and like I said, definitely check him out in the description below if you have not done so already. Despite his kindness towards me, we are seeking to beat him this week. Again, even though it's not going to be the easiest task in the world, because Tup has improved his skills from the first GBA season he was in, and he has a very scary team to back it up. So we're going to cover that team right now. It should be popping up on screen right now. His team consists of Tapu Koko, Scizor, Hydreigon, Tangrowth, Slowbro, Nidoking, Hitmontop, Chandelure, Blissey, Minior, and Cryogonal. So as you can see there, he's got a very offensive team. He's got a fast threat in Tapu Koko. He also has a relatively fast threat in Cryogonal, which can be an issue if I don't have my steel types around. He has Blissey, which is super fat. He has Chandelure, which can block my fighting moves from things like Buzzwole, and as well as spam very powerful stabs in Fire and Ghost. He has Scizor, which can always be a problem if it sets up. Hydreigon is a huge issue. And on top of his offense, he also has a pretty good wall core against me, being Tangrowth plus Slowbro. So, very good team he has. However, I've built a team of 6 that I think should be able to take on whatever team of 6 he decides to bring. And let's just jump into the team that we will be bringing. It's going to start off with our Roserade. We are running a Choice Scarf on Roserade. The biggest reason we're running Scarf is to both be a defensive and offensive check to his Tapu Koko. If you look at my team, it's very Tapu Koko weak. I have one ground type, and it is weak to its secondary stab and Fairy. So I needed something to be able to take on both of its stabs. Yes, I know Tapu Koko gets Brave Bird, which can OHKO this thing, but that's why we're running the Choice Scarf. I don't think he would predict my Roserade to always want to switch in and go for the Brave Bird. So I would much rather just switch into Roserade on a predicted electric or a fairy move and then be able to threaten him out from there. I was originally running Cobra Berry just so that I can take a Brave Bird and then knock him out, and I'd be able to switch up moves, but that wouldn't be super likely to succeed. Just because as soon as he clicks Thunderbolt onto me, he's getting a little bit of chip damage. If he Volt Switches out onto me, he's getting a little bit of chip damage. So I didn't really want to take a little bit of chip damage and then be in range of Brave Bird even if I was Cobra Berry anyway. So I decided that Choice Scarf was a better option. That way I can just switch in, take the hit, and then immediately threaten him out because I'm going to be faster and being able to OHKO him. So that's why we have the Choice Scarf there. As for the moveset, Sludge Bomb, Giga Drain, relatively standard dual stab. And then we have Dazzling Gleam, largely for the Hydreigon, because Hydreigon is a very big threat to this team. And then we have the Hidden Power Fire. I was considering Shadow Ball over Dazzling Gleam, just so that I can hit the Chandelure, but like I said, Hydreigon is a very, very scary thing versus my team, and I'm going to have a hard time dealing with it, and hopefully, if he stays in and goes for something like a Scarf Flamethrower, I'll be able to live it, and then I can knock him out with a Dazzling Gleam and eliminate one of the biggest threats to my team. Hidden Power Fire is clearly just there for the Scizor. There isn't too much else I need Hidden Power Fire for. In fact, there pretty much isn't anything on his team that I need Hidden Power Fire for other than that Scizor, but Technician boosted Hidden Power Fire will be able to knock him out, assuming he is not Aquaberry. So that is our Roserade, relatively standard set. However, it's a set that I feel like is going to be very efficient versus his team. And like I said, the biggest thing this thing can do for me is just deal with that Tapu Koko, because I am very weak to that Pokemon. It's very scary, and being able to get rid of that thing early will be very, very nice for me. So with that being said, let's move on to the second Pokemon on our team, and that is going to be our Buzzwole. We're running an Assault Vest on this thing. One reason we have the Assault Vest is, once again, just to kind of deal with the Tapu Koko, because they can take any hit from that thing, even like a Brave Bird if it's uninvested, because Buzzwole is ridiculous. I think. I haven't calced that, but like I'm not going to be switching into Buzzwole on this thing. I wouldn't be switching into Buzzwole on Tapu Koko, but I'm pretty sure I can live a Brave Bird just because of my ridiculous bulk. But anyway, Assault Vest is largely there for the Tapu Koko, and then also a big one is there for the Hydreigon. Because with the Assault Vest, I will be able to live a Scarf Fire Blast from Hydreigon after Stealth Rock, which is huge because I can then go for a Leech Life, get a ton of my HP back, and he would be sacking off his Hydreigon for almost no reason. Even if he is Life Orb, I will be able to live a Fire Blast from full, although I am much more afraid, with this team that I'm bringing, I'm much more afraid of a Scarf Hydreigon than a Life Orb one. But with that being said, that's why the Assault Vest is there, mostly to take on the Hydreigon. It has some other uses as well. It can kind of take on the Tangrowth if he has something like HP Flying. It can kind of take on the Nidoking but the biggest reason that that thing is there is for the Hydreigon. Then we'll get into the moveset. We have Superpower and Leech Life. Again, just dual stab, relatively good versus his team and hits everything pretty hard. And the things that those two don't hit very hard, like the Chandelure and the Tapu Koko, I do have Earthquake for. And those three moves are pretty much all the coverage that I needed for his team. I could have run something like Thunder Punch or Ice Punch in order to hit the Minior, but I didn't really see the point because Superpower will be doing a lot to that thing anyway, and I'm not going to be staying in versus Minior most of the time. Even though I do outspeed it before it enters its offensive form, I really don't want to deal with Minior. It hits me with super effective acrobatics, which I don't want to deal with. So I actually decided to slap on Power Up Punch there. And the reason I have Power Up Punch is, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, if he's in with Blissey and he's going to sack it off, or if he's going to have to switch himself out, I can go for a Power Up Punch and then possibly get another big hit off onto whatever else he wants to switch in. Also, if he's something along the lines of like a defensive Hitmontop or a defensive Scizor, I will be able to Power Up Punch on them and make myself strong enough to the point where I'll be able to deal with them, whereas they were meant to deal with me, and they're not going to be able to do their job because I'm boosting my attack. Even something like Hitmontop, if it hard switches in expecting to be able to tank a superpower and I go for a Power Up Punch, he's going to be in a lot of trouble because Hitmontop can't do a lot to Buzzwole. It can maybe go for a Toxic, but unless he's running like Technician, Hidden Power Flying, which would be kind of weird, he's really not going to be able to do much to my Buzzwole because I resist its stab. I'm extremely physically bulky. There's not going to be a lot he's going to be able to do to me, and I will be able to kind of set up all over that thing, which will be very nice. Same thing with the Scizor. If he's like a defensive Scizor and he's able to switch into a superpower, roost off the damage, I'll be able to go for Power Up Punches, boost my attack a little bit, and then possibly be able to knock him out after I've gotten up to +1 or +2, which is nice. Also, I don't think Aerial Ace from Scizor Oko's Buzzwole, which is very nice, so in case he's like an offensive variant and hits me with an Aerial Ace, I'll be able to live, hit him very hard with the superpower. Also, the speed investment that I have on this thing should be able to outspeed any Adamant Scizor, unless he's like max speed or if he's Jolly or something along those lines. This is basically the speed that I put onto it to make sure that his Scizor probably wouldn't be able to outspeed me. Also, I outspeed a max speed Adamant Minior, I outspeed a max speed Adamant Minior if he is in his shield form, or his shields down form, which is kind of nice. Because then, suppose he switches into rocks once or twice, I'll be able to knock him out with a superpower before he's able to Shell Smash up and do scary things to my team. So with that being said, that's Buzzwole. A little bit more of a stretch Pokemon, a little bit less of a standard set, but it's a set that I think is going to be able to put in a lot of work versus Cup. Like I said, Superpower, Leech Life, and Earthquake, 2 a KO or Oko, pretty much the entirety of this team. The only thing it can't are like a bulky Scizor or a very bulky Hitmontop, and I can Power Up Punch and possibly beat them 1v1 anyway. So that's Buzzwole. The next Pokemon we're going to be covering is going to be our Miltank. Miltank's making its debut. We have the leftovers on this thing, relatively standard item, like you can run leftovers on fat things. And then we're going to be running specially defensive. Once again, Hydreigon is a really big problem, and I need something to kind of switch into it. If it is a Choice Scarf set, I will be able to take 2 of anything he wants to go for, other than Focus Blast, and I don't think he'd be running Focus Blast for my team. Even if he is, he has to hit both of his Focus Blasts in a row, which is kind of hard to do. So we're running specially defensive, take 2 of any Scarf Dark Pulse that he wants to go for, even 2 Scarf Draco Meteors I should be able to live. We also have Thick Fat on this thing, just so that I can take on things like Hydreigon Fire Blast a little bit better, just so I can take on Nidoking Flamethrower a little bit better. Also, the big thing is I can switch this thing freely into his Chandelure, unless he's running something along the lines of Hidden Power Fighting, and even Hidden Power Fighting I will be able to take relatively well. And if he's running Hidden Power Fighting, then he doesn't have a great way to hit my Zygarde, so I will be okay with that anyway. As you can see, we're running Body Slam, Toxic, Milk Drink, and Stealth Rock. This seemed like the best Stealth Rocker to bring versus his team. I didn't think Alolan Golem had a great matchup just because he had priority in Scizor. He had things like Hydreigon, which if he were Scarf would outspeed me if I got up a Rock Polish anyway. He also had things like Chandelure that outsped me, hit me with a Shadow Ball. He had things like Nidoking to hurt me a lot, and he had Tangrowth to just straight up wall this thing, or straight up wall my Golem. So I didn't think it would have been the best mon to bring this game, but Miltank can actually put in a lot of work versus his team. Like I said, it's able to take on the Chandelure very well. It can Toxic the Slowbro in case he's like a Calm Mind Slowbro. It can Toxic the Tangrowth. I can possibly wear down his Wall Core, which is very nice. I can Toxic the Chandelure, which otherwise I would have to run Earthquake for. I had a little bit of trouble coming up with this moveset because I wanted to run Fire Punch just so that I can hit the Scizor, because obviously the set in front of you doesn't really hit Scizor all that hard. But I determined with things like Buzzwole, with things like Jirachi, that I have some moves for it. With the things like Greninja, Scizor wasn't the biggest problem in the world to me. It still could be an issue, but I wanted to dedicate this Miltank to being able to beat his Chandelure, and if I'm running Fire Punch over Toxic, I don't really beat his Chandelure. I can run Earthquake, but that's also not going to be doing a lot to Scizor, and I'm not going to be doing anything to Tangrowth or Slowbro if he decides to bring those. So I decided to just run the Body Slam Toxic set with Miltank and Stealth Rock. Obviously, he does have Minior, which can kind of take advantage of the set, but hopefully I'll be able to have Rocks up on the field by the time that thing comes in, if he does bring it. And I do have something in the back that I will reveal in a little bit to kind of deal with Minior as well. So that's Miltank. Like I said, specially defensive, meant to take on things like the Hydreigon, as well as a couple other special attackers on his team. If his Nidoking is not Life Orb, I will be able to take 2 of whatever he has to go for, unless he has, once again, Focus Blast, but I don't expect him to, because it's unreliable and it doesn't have the best coverage versus my team. So that's Miltank, and now we are going to move on to a very big threat versus his team. I'm very excited to bring, and that is going to be our Jirachi. Once again going with the leftovers, once again bringing a sub Jirachi, and once again bringing a set that has over 200 HP. So this is a set that is meant to not only set up a sub versus a couple different things on his team and possibly flinch things and toxic things down, but with the 204 HP, I will be able to set up a sub freely on his Blissey unless he is running Fire Blast. And what that will allow me to do is not have my sub broken by Seismic Toss, which will be very, very nice for me to be able to do, because once I'm behind a sub against the Blissey, I can just start spamming Iron Head, possibly just deal a lot of damage to it. Also, if he decides to switch out into something like Tangrowth or Slowbro, then I will be able to Toxic those, which will be very, very nice, because I can whittle them down. Even if I'm still behind a sub behind Slowbro, even though I'm not going to be doing a lot of damage with Iron Head, I can keep clicking it until he doesn't flinch and breaks my sub. And then if he decides to go into Scizor, which can take on the Iron Head as well as the Toxic, he's going to then have to take on a Fire Punch, which he can live one of just because I'm not an offensive Jirachi and Scizor has decent natural bulk, but he's still not going to be appreciating that hit, and I do have that 20% chance to burn with Serene Grace, and like I said, he's just not going to be able to beat me 1v1, which is very, very nice, because this Jirachi is kind of meant to take on as many things on his team as physically possible. The speed is so that I'm able to outspeed a timid max speed Hydreigon in case he is not Choice Scarfed. I originally had Play Rough on this thing, just so that I can OHKO Hydreigon, but I feel like this set of 4 moves right here is going to be the best that I can possibly bring versus him, because I can flinch things down that are poisoned, get a lot of damage off onto them, and the things that I can't poison I can hit with super effective or neutral coverage in Fire Punch or Iron Head. So that is going to be our Jirachi, very big threat to his team. Very, very big annoyance. I'm really hoping I'm able to set up on that Blissey. And if he doesn't bring Blissey, then that's also fine, but if he does, then Jirachi will be able to be a hard counter to that thing, which is very nice. I also have to be careful, obviously this thing doesn't touch Chandelure very much, but once again, I can just get a Toxic off onto that thing, and if I have Stealth Rock up, it will be getting whittled down turn for turn, which is very nice. So that is Jirachi. Very, very nice Pokemon versus this team. Really looking forward to using this set in game. But I'm also very excited to bring this set that I came up with, which I'm very excited to use. Before I go over this, I got the right speed tier, guys. I promise this is the correct speed tier. So there's that. But with that being said, this is our Greninja. Hydro Pump, Dark Pulse, Water Shuriken, U-Turn, Choice Specs, Rash Nature. We are getting a lot of power out of this thing. With this amount of speed investment, I will be able to outspeed a max speed Timid Cryogonal. I made sure. I double-checked, I triple-checked, don't worry. So we're able to outspeed everything on his team, bar the Tapu Koko, as well as bar Choice Scarfers, obviously. The Tapu Koko is actually one of the reasons that I'm running Choice Specs Water Shuriken on this thing, because suppose I get him down to around 40%, and it's like a super big threat, and it looks like I might lose, I can click Choice Specs Water Shuriken, and as long as I get 3 hits, I should be able to knock him out, which will be very, very important. If you guys don't know as well, Water Shuriken has been changed to being a special attack rather than a physical attack now. I actually don't know how many hits I would need to knock out Tapu Koko, but regardless, the priority is nice. Water Shuriken was changed to a special attack. It's no longer just a physical attack, so that's pretty cool. We're running Choice Specs just because I don't really need to switch up moves against him very often. Like, pretty much the only thing I need to click is Hydro Pump. Like, Specs Hydro Pump and Specs Dark Pulse just put in a ton of damage versus his team. Like, even things like Hydreigon that resist are not going to want to switch into a Specs Hydro Pump or Dark Pulse. They're going to be taking a lot of damage from that. The only real thing that he has to switch into this thing is going to be his Blissey, and like I said, I do have my sub Jirachi to kind of deal with that thing, so he's not going to be able to touch my Jirachi, and if I am anticipating his Blissey to want to switch in, I can go for a U-turn on that thing and gain myself initiative into a big offensive threat like Buzzwole, which doesn't really have a good switch in on my opponent's side of the field. So this Greninja set is meant to basically break through his entire team. It can definitely sweep late game if I whittle his team down enough. And if he does have something along the lines of a Blissey, which can hard wall this thing, I can click U-turn on it, and I will be able to go out into something like my Jirachi to set up a sub, or my Buzzwole to start wall breaking, or to start setting up power-up punches to possibly beat the rest of his team. So that is going to be our Greninja. I know that was kind of a quick cover of that thing, but it's relatively straightforward. I just want to click Specs, Hydro Pump, and Dark Pulse and do a lot of damage to things. And then Water Shuriken is there not only to hit the Tapu Koko, which I'm a little bit afraid of, but also if Minior gets out of hand, like it's able to get up a Shell Smash or two, I can send in my Greninja and just click Water Shuriken and be able to knock that thing out, assuming it's in its shield's down form, which I assume, if it's a problem, it'll probably be in its shield down form, because that's when it's the scariest, it's the most offensively powerful. So that's our Greninja. Super useful Pokemon versus his team, and now we are going to move into the last member of our team, being our Zygarde. So, our Zygarde, Thousand Arrows, Rest, Sleep, Talk, Dragon Dance, so mono attacking Thousand Arrows is all I really need versus his team. He does have the Tangrowth to kind of wall this thing, and by kind of wall this thing, I mean like to hard wall this thing, but my team deals with Tangrowth relatively well. Like I have Jirachi that can Toxic it and possibly flinch it down, hit it with Fire Punches. I have the Miltank that can Toxic it or set up Stealth Rock versus it. I have the Buzzwole which can hit it with super effective Leech Life. I have the Roserade to Oko with Sludge Bomb, and I do have my Greninja, which will be able to 2-hit KO with Dark Pulse, assuming it's not Assault Vest. So we have our specially defensive, kind of speedy Zygarde here. The speed stat that it hits 134, that is what I need to outspeed a max speed timid Tapu Koko at +1, which will be very nice. Like if I get up a Dragon Dance, I'll be able to outspeed the entirety of his team, which will be awesome. Thousand Arrows, like I said, hits pretty much everything on his team bar the Tangrowth. It also doesn't really do a lot of damage to Slowbro, but like I said, I do have other ways of dealing with Slowbro. Dark Pulse on Greninja, I can Toxic it with Jirachi, Toxic it with Miltank, I have Leech Life on the Buzzwole, I think you get the point. So basically, the couple walls that he has on his team that beat Zygarde do not beat the majority of my team, which is going to be very important, and that's a big thing that I built this team around, you know? I have a very important setup sweeper. It's stopped by a couple things. Shift your team, build it to the point where his wall core is threatened by the majority of it, which is going to be very important. Now, I was considering making Zygarde be able to outspeed things like his Chandelure and things like his Nidoking, but I actually really wanted the special defense on this thing, just because something along the lines of a Spec Chandelure or even like a Tapu Koko can be a very big problem to my team. With this special defense investment, Life Orb HP Ice from Tapu Koko should not be able to knock me out. Same thing with Dazzling Gleam, it shouldn't be able to knock me out, which is very nice, and I'll be able to Oko it. And I really just prefer specially defensive Zygarde in this matchup as opposed to like a speedy offensive Dragon Dance set. I can take Nidoking's hits, other than obviously an Ice Beam, a lot better. I can take Tangrowth on. If it doesn't have HP Ice, I should be able to beat Tangrowth 1v1, which is going to be very nice. Like I said, I can take on the Chandelure, I can take on the things like the Blissey. Even if it has Ice Beam, it won't be doing enough to knock me out. And I can set up on it, rest on it, Sleep Talk. And like I said, if I make a ballsy prediction and I go into Zygarde on a possible electric move, like a possible Volt Switch, I know not only cut off his momentum, I will be able to hit something on his team with the Thousand Arrows, and if he decides to stay in to try and knock me out, he will fail to do so, and I will be able to knock him out with a Thousand Arrows. So that is our Zygarde. Super important Pokemon versus his team. Like I said, he does have his checks on his team, but the rest of my team should be able to deal with things like Tangrowth and Slowbro that kind of wall it. So with that being said, we are going to wrap up this video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you thought of the team in the comment section below. And with that being said, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you in the match.